Up and at 'em, 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, June the 3rd. We are rolling right along, 89 days until South Carolina and Virginia Tech kick off. We are inside the 90-day mark, Preston.
Tim Pops Frisbee, Steve Tasker.
Okay.
Other than that, Willis Ham, 89's not a great one. Not a great one. That's just off the top of the head. We're not gonna use any assistance for that one. But yeah, 89 days. Yeah, we're inside of 90. So if you had 90 days to hit some goals, or if you had 90 days to do something, we are here. It's time to get it going.
Yeah, you need to make sure you got your parking lined up. You need to make sure that you've got your tailgating supplies starting to collect, and make sure, of course, you have your season tickets. And I thought so, but I didn't want to say it. Number 89, Brian Edwards, most recently.
Ah, okay. Solid.
So this is where Tommy Moody took care of all of us each and every year with his jersey countdown of who wore that particular jersey. But 89 days away. But Preston, right now, I'll tell you what, whether it's on the television and something you're watching, or whether it's locally and you're trying to follow college baseball and South Carolina baseball, boy, a lot going on. And Jen, let's hit it. This is our most important thing of the day.
Now on the early game, let's kick off the show with the MITs, the most important things on the game.
So about 2 weeks ago, Preston, Jamie Bradford joined us on a Monday morning. He said, circle June 2nd. We said, well, what's June 2nd? And he said, that is the day the transfer portal opens, and that there would be chaos and destruction, and the portal might just swallow up all the things that were standing around Founders Park.
Here comes the portal. Here comes the portal.
Yeah, don't go out on the field. Hunker down in the dugout and let it pass. All right, just because the portal opened yesterday and maybe not everybody jumped in doesn't mean things won't still happen. But yesterday we did start to get a better feel for who's going to really hang around, who's going to return, and who has decided, no, I'm not going to be part of this again.
Let's just say the numbers that are leaving are greater than the numbers that are staying as of right now. This just in the first couple of days of the portal. The numbers of folks that are leaving the team via the portal is greater than the folks that are staying on the team via the portal. So we did know that there was going to be some triage from this roster. What I'm interested in knowing is whether or not these folks are leaving on their own volition. Were they told to leave? Were they given a hint? When did they make up their mind? I think there's a lot of interesting ways that we can look at this.
No, there's a couple different angles to the story, and as of 7 o'clock last night, the guys who had officially entered the portal, who had officially put their name in and showed up, Roman Kimball.
Take a deep breath.
Yeah. We
Ready?
Try and get through this in one segment.
Can you do this in one breath? Let's see if you can get it. How many days can you go through?
Roman Kimball, okay. Will Tippett, Jace Wada, Ryan Bakes, Caden Gaskin, Tyler Pitzer, Eddie Copper, Wyatt Evans, Nolan Naraki, Max Kaufer, Tyler June. That's who's officially in the portal, and I made it.
He took a breath right before Tyler June.
That's close. Eli Jersenbeck, as of 7 o'clock last night, had announced he was going to the portal, but not officially in it. But you can probably put his name there for it in terms of what will happen. But of that list, you know, we mentioned yesterday, Jamie Bradford mentioned Jace Wada as a guy that he really hated to see leave. Ryan Bakes is a guy that I know they thought had a very bright future. Tyler Pitzer is a guy that has been believed to be a weekend SEC starter. He's on the way out. Eddie Copper was a reliable receiver, a reliable relief pitcher who obviously is part of that big story from thebigspur.com with some injury issues that maybe didn't get handled in the most appropriate way. Nolan Naraki was a name that I don't want to say shocked me, because I don't think I'd be shocked by any names on the list. But Nolan Naraki was supposed to be a big part of this team this past year, the transfer from Clemson, and ended up having knee issues and ended up missing the majority of the season. That's one of the guys that Paul Maneri, I think, pointed specifically to and said, hey, this was a guy that we felt really good about that unfortunately was injured and didn't get to make the impact we'd hoped for.
Yeah, so when you look at the lines, obviously we're looking at the top side potential, and we're the teams that are going to be taking those fellas in, they're going to be looking at the top side potential, but we can't not dismiss the idea that this was the worst team in modern Gamecock history. So, yes, all of those potential factors are to play. Yes, all of those statistics do matter. Yes, all of their potential matters. But at the same time, they were part of a roster that didn't produce. So I don't know. I don't know what you do with that.
It's a great question. I'm going to circle back to that. I didn't put it on our rundown, but it kind of dawned on me as we were sitting here kind of talking a little bit about the show, about the roster, and about maybe how you feel now. And let me just throw this at you, and then we'll circle back to it where we can. We know that South Carolina had an awful, awful basketball season. One of the little comforting blankets that we pulled up and held real tight was, man, that SEC in basketball was really good. Look what they did in the NCAA basketball tournament. We all looked at it and was like, man, that SEC baseball was really good. But after the first weekend, are we looking at it and being like, oh, wait, they were really good? Like we were able to kind of comfort ourselves with the fact of, hey, basketball held their own in the NCAA tournament. They must have been really good. Baseball in the opening weekend doesn't come out of this thing with the roses smelling quite so sweet.
Yeah, that is a concept. Both squads were reaching when they were trying to grab that. They were trying to grab that security blanket of being in the SEC. I don't think it nullifies it because you still have to play that gauntlet of teams every single day, and in a one-off tournament or in a one-off game or double elimination tournament, especially in baseball because it's extra random. Things can happen, so I don't think it nullifies the idea that the SEC is still very strong. It also doesn't excuse the fact that finish is second to last in the SEC.
So that was the portal officially opens, and you get the guys that are going in. Again, we'll try it one more time.
Ready? Take a deep breath.
Roman Kimball, Will Tippett, Jace Woida, Ryan Bakes, Caden Gaskin, Tyler Pitzer, Eddie Copper, Wyatt Evans, Nolan Naraki, Max Kaufer, and Tyler June.
Good job.
And that's just on day one. So there's still some potential to have other guys end up leaving. And as we've all learned from Cam Scott, sometimes the portal spits you right back out. And you end up right where you were.
Do a rebound.
You go in, you get twisted up a little bit, and you lose your footing, and the next thing you know, you're back out and you're right where you started. So that was the other part. Now, the part that we'll get into coming up in the next segment is the guys that look like they're returning. My question is going to be, does that make you feel good? Do you look at Jake McCoy yesterday announcing who looks like a legitimate Friday night starter in the SEC? Do you look at KJ Scobie at third base and Bo Hollins at first base and say, okay, we've got some cornerstones here. We've got a pitcher. We got two guys, first base and third base. Talmadge LeCroy also set to return. You got him. They wanted to really keep Gavin Brayland as well. They're going to get him back. So there are still, and I'm hesitant to suggest anything because I don't know enough about baseball recruiting and prospects and exactly what's going on. But they have picked up some junior college players. They've picked up some transfers a little bit. I don't know what that means. And so my question becomes like, does anybody seeing some of these guys coming back give you hope? Or have you just become so apathetic that you're like, I don't really care? Was this year so bad that now you just honestly don't have the interest or the excitement that most would have because baseball is South Carolina sport, quite honestly?
If that's your feeling, I understand.
I do too, yeah.
If that's your feeling, I understand because the season was abysmal. And so if you ask somebody to get excited about players that they don't know, that they never heard, I can definitely understand. I can definitely understand that for this past year. If you're in a just wait and let me wait and see what's going on here, I understand that also. So, yeah, you're not wrong if you feel that way.
So we'll get into all of that this morning, a lot of baseball discussion. The NCAA baseball tournament last night. Boy, I tell you what, you didn't get some of the excitement that maybe we were hoping for. North Carolina blew out Oklahoma 14-4. Oregon State, again, well-known, formerly known Pac-12 showdown. Oregon State hammers Southern Cal 9-0. Tennessee and Wake Forest was actually a fairly good game last night, but Tennessee pulled away late in that contest. LSU knocks off Arkansas Little Rock, and then maybe one of the better game. Well, one of the top two games of the day was Miami and Southern Miss. Although Southern Miss had to score 2 runs in the ninth, it was 5-2 in that ball game. But the game of the night, if you didn't see it, you kind of zoned out on it because it was trending for a blowout, Preston, was Mississippi and Murray State. And I just mentioned, all right, well, how do you feel about the SEC? Yesterday, Oklahoma goes down, Mississippi goes down, LSU holds on and knocks off Arkansas Little Rock. But Mississippi goes down 12-3 to Murray State, rallies to make it 12-11. I think as I put on Twitter, Murray State was holding on for dear life, and the maniacs that are out there in the outfield at Mississippi, as they're coming back, they're throwing their beers left and right like they didn't have. They've got more money in all the world. It's okay to throw your $12 beer at a baseball game, go buy another one, and throw it again.
It's funny you mentioned money because in the budgetary matchup between Ole Miss and Murray State, one team's budget this past year was $9 million.
Okay.
The other team's budget this past year, $858K. You guess which one was which, and you decide which one was wasting beer. I would assume it was the $9 million budget, folks. Yeah. So, yeah, congratulations. $8 million. You minus $8 million on that budget.
Well, yeah,
You lost to Murray State.
Well, they made up a little bit for it in beer sales because, like I said, those frat boys out there, all those people out in about right field, the beers were going up and being thrown constantly. And but it turned into a great game, and it ended up being one that I would prepared accordingly to go to bed a little bit earlier. And the next thing you know, you're kind of like, well, need to step and watch this and see if this is one of those epic comebacks that we discussed early in the morning. It didn't happen, but nonetheless, now we move on. And I do have a question I want to circle back to next week with Jamie Bradford that I kind of don't understand. Has there ever been discussion for reseeding baseball after the regionals? Because you see situations like this where Coastal Carolina is going to have to go to Auburn as a 13 seed, but yet you're going to have teams who are further down who might have an easier path now and get to host a regional. And I don't know if this has ever been – I'm sure people discuss it, and I guess the main part when we were talking baseball was when South Carolina was a top 4 national seed anyway, and we didn't ever care.
Like, what? People have to travel?
Yeah, I wonder about that after this first round of NCAA regional play, but something we'll circle back to. 803-404-6100. I do want to just add something else to you last night because this is something, Preston, that we talked about last year. Have you been aware that Mike Trout wasn't even playing?
Yeah, no, actually I have not. You know, that is funny because I was not aware that Mike Trout was not playing. I did know that Ron Washington was the head coach, the manager, I should say. I did know that. Didn't know he wasn't playing, though. You're right.
This is what happens when you sign a very big contract with a team that's average at best and nobody's aware of when you're out there. And again, this guy Mike Trout's considered one of the best players in baseball, and he's been sitting out a month with a bruised left knee. And I just happened after the game last night, that was like one of the leadoff stories on ESPN. I was like, oh yeah, Mike Trout, that's right.
You could have told me Mike Trout had 25 home runs this year. I'd be like, yeah, that's.
What was it last year? I think it was last year they had like at one point 25 runs and he had 12 home runs or something.
Yeah, is he not playing? Is he the only one playing? I don't know.
Lesson be learned. Giannis Antetokounmpo, be careful getting out of Milwaukee. At least we know you're there.
That's true.
At least we're still kind of following that. 803-404-6100. We'll get back into some baseball discussion, go through a little bit of this roster, and ask you the question. Does this perk your interest? Does it make you want to kind of pay attention a little bit more? Unfortunately, was this year so bad, you're just completely checked out on it. 803-404-6100. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Larry Leitner and the family, they have been the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And it's that proven history that is your assurance that their professionals will provide proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility. And they're going to do it in a manner both safe and pleasing to you. So whether it is your home or whether it's your business, whether you're here in Columbia, whether you're in Florence or Myrtle Beach, Aiken or Augusta, Mid-State Roofing is ready to help you with a maintenance contract. And they're ready to do that 24 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just give them a phone call, 803-356-1919. That's 803-356-1919. You can also visit them on the web, midstateroofing.com. You'll speak with an on-call technician after hours and a Midstate Roofing staff member during hours. But the phone number to call, 803-356-1919. You can visit them on the web, midstateroofing.com. If you've got a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
One accident to let you know about: Ermine Road between Platte Springs Road and Old Barnwell Road. Aside from that, though, things moving along okay. 89, mostly sunny today. Could see some afternoon or evening showers on Wednesday. Dropping down to 82, 81 on Thursday with a few showers. And then we're warming back up for the weekend. 89 for your Friday with partly cloudy conditions. But right now, it's not too bad. 62 on 107.5 The Game.
Up and Adam on your Tuesday morning. Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, and Jen Jensen as we get you going here. A lot to get into as yesterday the college baseball transfer portal officially opening up, Preston Thorne. And it was a day that, again, probably about 2 weeks ago, Jamie Bradford told us, hey, circle this day and keep an eye as to what could occur with South Carolina baseball and the future, or at least the 2026 roster. And that's what I was kind of trying to keep an eye on very closely yesterday to see what would happen and where it was all going to go.
And it went, and there was a lot of folks that are in, but make no mistake about it. Just because the doors opened yesterday doesn't mean that there wasn't activity in the portal prior to that day. Either players have been contacted, players were contacting, players were plotting, planning, coaches were everybody's stirring around the portal. This is like the official day when people can actually get in and be official. But it's not as if people were sitting around and then on June 2nd, everybody's like, I wonder if I'm going to go into
everybody
the portal.
crammed into the portal right there, got stuck shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah, that's not how that works, right?
Actually looks like a clown car at this point, how they're all climbing in or rolling
the portal
out.
is happening. It is a thing that's happening. This is just the first day when we can make things official.
So, again, as Preston said, first day that things really become official and set. And, again, South Carolina yesterday. So it's not a matter of who might have announced. It becomes a matter of who has actually entered into the transfer portal. And as of yesterday, again, it was Roman Kimball, who didn't see – oh, hold on. I'm going to go through this a little bit. Roman Kimball, who didn't see a whole lot of action. Will Tippett, who kind of platooned a little bit, didn't have the best numbers this year. Ryan Bakes, who I personally I don't know. That was a guy that I'd heard a lot about. But Bakes is kind of whatever happened. He got in the doghouse this year, didn't really play a whole lot. Was a guy that didn't make a huge impact. Max Coffer and Tyler June are two guys who, again, maybe they've got upside. Maybe I don't know what you would list. I think you might have the numbers there on Coffer, I believe. I don't think there anything really there that jumps out at you.
11 starts, 24.
Okay.
He played in 24 games.
Yeah. So again, not a huge loss there. Caden Gaskin was not a guy that really made a massive impact, I believe, this year out of the bullpen. Anything on him particularly?
He can play second base or the outfield.
Excuse me, I said out of the bullpen. I'm thinking of the one I'm about to go to. Yeah, so again, all right, so those are kind of the guys you go, well, all right, no harm, no foul. Maybe they go somewhere else and they turn into All-Americans and we're all like, boy, bad job coaching. Really should have built them up. Yesterday, Jamie Bradford started with Jace Woita, a guy who came in and actually I think I don't know what his final numbers were, but seemed to have some big hits, have some big moments, and played a good bit this year.
So, according to this, he hit 333 with 3 doubles, 1 triple, and 3 home runs against SEC competition. So he was one of the best players for the team against the top competition.
That's a hurt. That's a loss. That's a loss right there. Nolan Naraki, I think, is a loss. He is a guy who unfortunately got injured earlier in the season, had the knee issues. I say he's a loss because Paul Maneri seemed to point him out specifically as, hey, this was a guy we were counting on. He got injured. Because he got injured, not just specifically him, others as well, but because he got injured, our season kind of went the way it did.
Yeah, and when you say it's a loss, I hear that, but I don't know if anything's a loss until we see what's coming in.
What the replacement is. The only reason I even say it's a loss is because Paul Maneri seemed to point that one out specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what his numbers ended up being because it was so early in the season. I think it was right after the Clemson series is when he officially went out with the knee injuries. I think he was having a decent season, and I do think he would have been a key piece. But because he went out so early, it's hard for me to say, well, he would have necessarily picked up 2 or 3 more wins.
Yeah. Win share? Is that
yeah. The old win share.
Win share? Wins above replacement, I believe, is an analytic. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows what that would be?
The losses appear to be significantly with Tyler Pitzer. That is one. Pitzer seemed to pitch very well in certain situations this year. Did have some struggles. Not going to say that he didn't have some struggles, but that was a guy that I know they were very high on as far as his development.
Yeah, and again, we won't know all of the reasons why he's leaving. Is he leaving because he didn't like the place? Is he leaving because he didn't like the coach? Is he leaving for a better opportunity? We're not necessarily sure what the reasons are, or if the coaches are. Do the coaches feel like this is a loss? Do they feel like this is a thing? Because one of the comments that we had, and Jen, I want to get this clip here. The coach from
Texas San Antonio
was very poignant about how he felt about the transfer portal. And I think it's very defining how coaches approach the transfer portal. Here's the coach. Here's Pat Hallmark from Texas San Antonio, clip number 5, how he and his team, who have been very successful, how they approach the transfer portal.
You guys lose Matt King and Ruger, and you're in a super regional. What does that kind of say about your program? You can lose 2 really good players like that, and you actually get much better.
Well, we're adaptable. That's what it says. There's no guarantee. We could get hurt by the portal. This year we didn't. Certainly those 2 guys are good players. Ruger's a good player. We lost some good players. 2 minutes before we walked in this room, Kendall, Coach Aguayo, me and Norris were talking. To be very blunt, we said, we're not here if those people are still here. We're here because they left. And that's a fact, because Norris is here, Ty Hodge is here. And they're big reasons why we're in the super regional. So it's God, it's adaptability, it's persistence, and it's at the end of the day, it's do what you can with what you have. They want to get in the portal, get in the portal. We'll go for the next guy, which is those 2 guys right back there.
I agree with what he's saying. I don't know if everybody has that kind of philosophy, because at Texas San Antonio, you almost have to be prepared for having guys for 1 year. South Carolina, a Georgia, a Florida, a Tennessee, a Vanderbilt, you can go on and on. They sign guys not expecting them to enter the transfer portal. Obviously, you always have to have that in the back of your mind with the way college is now set up. But Texas San Antonio, a Wofford, a Furman, a Conference USA or American Atlantic team, or what is it, American Conference, I think you're always thinking that these players are looking to use you as a stepping stone, if you will. It used to be, I think we thought more about that for the coach's perspective of, we'll just go get the Texas San Antonio football coach, or we'll go get the Memphis, go to Mike Norvell going from Memphis to Florida State. Well, now players are looking at it more and more as, okay, it's a stepping stone. Maybe I didn't get the offers I wanted right off the bat. I'll go here, shine out, play well for a year, and then basically enter my name back into the recruiting portal, the transfer portal now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And they're saying how they approach that. Yes, fine. You want to leave? Cool. We're going to do our due diligence. We're going to take the next person, and we're going to keep trucking. And I think that's maybe them not having the budgets, them not having the luxuries that some of these other schools have, i.e. South Carolina. Maybe that's an attitude that maybe more schools need to approach, because obviously Texas San Antonio has done very well for themselves, and they shoved Texas in a locker 3 times this year.
Yeah, and so that is the attitude. And South Carolina right now has to have that attitude. All right, you lose a Tyler Pitzer, you lose an Eddie Copper, you lose a Nolan Nawrocki, you lose a Jace Woida. You got to go out and you got to find equal or better replacements. And to go back, Lamont Paris did that in year 2. He did not do that in year 3. So we'll see how that plays out. 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in on that. Well, we had an angry coach situation, and yesterday it escalated with videos being leaked out, words being deciphered, a university having to put out an apology, a coach having to put out an apology. Well, it turns out that Kevin Sullivan really is an annoying, arrogant bleep.
You don't say. You don't say. I thought maybe I stepped out a smidge too far when I called him a whiner and crier yesterday. Maybe I didn't go far enough.
No, you didn't go. And we'll discuss this. We will get into this. Let you hear all kinds of apologizing and explanations, all the things that athletic directors love to do when your athletic calendar year is over.
Taking accountability.
803-404-6100. You're listening to The Early Game. Bill Gunner for Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. It is officially summer. The kids are home, and now your carpets, oh boy, they're in trouble. The kids and the animals, they're ready to run roughshod right over the carpets. But with Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning and their patented ZR water technology, scientifically proven to keep everything nice and clean, you can count on Zero Res making sure those carpets, the rugs, the tile, the upholstery all stay very clean looking this coming summer. Just give them a phone call and take advantage of their summer sale. Mention me, Bill Gunner at 107.5 The Game, and you can get 15% off all cleaning services. That's right, 15% off all cleaning services. Again, just give them a phone call, 803-262-4020. Schedule online, ZeroResColumbia.com, and again, get 15% off all cleaning services. That's right, carpets, air ducts, area rugs, and so much more. Give them a phone call today, 803-262-4020, and tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Currently have just one accident at Ermine Road between Platte Springs Road and Old Barnwell Road. And that forecast now might see a little bit of rain in the middle part of the week. So today we're looking at sunny skies, 89 for the high. Tomorrow afternoon, early evening could see some rain possible. 82 is where we will be in our daytime high. 81 on Thursday with some showers. Then that clears out, and cloudy and 89 is what we're looking for Friday, before maybe afternoon or evening storms again coming in Saturday and Sunday. Right now, 62 on 107.5 The Game.
One last thing I have is I have to say this, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but I believe in standing up for what's right, and what transpired this morning on our field. Another coach disrespected our associate AD, who works as hard as anybody in our entire program. He disrespected our field crew, who are the salt of the earth. These guys would do anything for our program. It's not okay. And this needs to be brought up. Absolutely disrespectful. As a coach, it's our job to mentor young kids. And the way he treated the 2 site reps, the way he treated our associate AD, the way he treated our field crew is absolutely unacceptable. And that's what I'm most disappointed about. This is a national champion coach who thinks he can come in here and try to bully people around. Disappointed. Disappointed, somebody that a lot of coaches look up to. For him to act that way, really disappointed. He disrespected a Hall of Fame coach who's the site rep here. That's all I got to say.
Those were the words on Sunday of Coastal Carolina coach, head baseball coach Kevin Schnall, who we had on the program last week. And I think we learned Coach is a serious guy.
He's pretty intense.
He is intense. And when this kind of occurred on Sunday and Sunday night after the East Carolina game, I think I was kind of like, all right, what happened? And yesterday we started to get the full details that Kevin O'Sullivan, for lack of a better term, made a complete rear end of himself in Conway. And we're still getting details, but now there's been video leaked with this.
Yeah, so there was whispers yesterday about what was happening, but we still didn't have the full details. We couldn't really report or talk about it. This clip was obviously out there, but we didn't know. And then you get the videos leaked, and then you get the people talking, and you get different views of the videos, which, oh, by the way, hey, remember, there's cameras everywhere.
Everybody's a reporter these days.
Yes, and maybe that's for good, so that you can have these types of things, whereas he might have tried to deny this in the past, or he might have tried to say it wasn't that big of a deal,
right.
Or he might have said, well, I didn't really actually say those things. Those people are blowing it out of proportion. No, Kevin, we saw it. We saw what you did, how you acted, and now we can react appropriately.
Yeah, that's going to be the big thing. Now let's hear. This is Kevin O'Sullivan on the post game on the situation. Here is what he had to say. Mind you, before let's be clear about what you're about to hear.
The timeline is very important.
This is Kevin O'Sullivan on how he thought he acted prior to knowing, oh, there were people recording? There were cameras? Here's Kevin O'Sullivan after his loss to East Carolina.
Coach, could you address the situation before the game?
I don't want to address that right now.
Nothing there, apology or anything like that?
I handled it properly.
You handled it?
At the end of the game, yes.
For the record,
stuttering there.
Well, let's also be clear. For the record, we cannot play the videos that are out there because Kevin O'Sullivan has. We like to keep our job. We have rules.
The FCC's kind of got this whole license thing.
I'm disappointed in myself because, a matter of fact, I'll do this during the break, but I'm going to go back and watch the video, and I'm going to give the official F-bomb counter for the video.
Okay.
Just so we can give everybody, if you haven't seen the video, could have a sense of the words and the way in which you won't have the way in which he was using it, but you at least have the words.
So this has now led to...
Suffice to say, he did not handle it properly.
This has now led to basically... I don't want to say an investigation. That seems a little extreme, but that's basically what it was. And Florida now, yesterday, Preston, having to put out a state, both the athletic director, Scott Strickland of Florida, and Kevin O'Sullivan having to readdress the situation.
Well, this was his exact words. This was Kevin O'Sullivan's exact words on the official statement, which they made a pretty graphic. A lot of words on a graphic. I don't think this is great. But anyway, official statements from Florida, and this is from Kevin O'Sullivan. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's ridiculous. Prior to yesterday's NCAA tournament game against East Carolina, I let my emotions get the best of me and channeled that energy in a way that I should not have. I want to sincerely apologize for my actions and behavior to the entire NCAA regional field of Coastal Carolina, East Carolina, and Fairfield, the NCAA site representatives, and Mar staff, and as well as all of Gator Nation. I'm finishing right here. I did not represent the University of Florida to the appropriate standard yesterday, and I take full responsibility for that. And I promise to learn from this experience and get better moving forward.
Let's hear, I tell you what, Jen, this is going to be clip number 7. This is Parker Byrd, an East Carolina infielder who...
An East Carolina infielder.
Right.
Another team.
Another team.
A player that he does not coach, does not know.
This is Parker Byrd, who somehow got himself entangled to this, probably accidentally. But this is Parker Byrd, again, an infielder for East Carolina, talking about the situation and him being cussed out by Kevin O'Sullivan.
Yeah, so I walked into, all right, so we entered on the first base side, but we were in the third base dugout that game. And we were entering, and I was holding the quad board, which obviously you know, but it's the big whiteboard. And I was holding it walking in, and he was already cussing out some of our guys that had already walked by, and all the coaches had already walked by as well. But he started cussing at Zayak and Gabe Beschloss, but they didn't really acknowledge it. Really, they had headphones on and were kind of in their zone, and then. Hey, I walk around the corner, and he's the first person I saw. I'm like, "Good morning, Coach. How you doing?"
Just being good guy Parker. Just being good guy Parker.
Yeah, because, I heard about all the stuff that happened, and, I was trying not to picture him as a bad dude. I was like, it's a bad situation.
Give him grace.
Maybe not his fault. Yeah, literally. And then I turned the corner. I saw him. I said that. He's like, F you. You can stick that whiteboard up your F&A.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, holy. My reaction was, are you serious?
Coach, could you address the situation before the game?
I don't want to address that right now.
Nothing there, apology or anything like that?
I handled it properly.
You handled it?
At the end of the game, yes.
Yeah, we've all been there before. You're upset, and that's how you handle the situation. We know.
Handled it properly. handled it properly. This was before the game. This was at this again. So there's a couple different situations. He has the situation going at the other team's players. That situation. He has a situation going at the site representative. He has a situation going at the field crew. So he has 3 different things that he did not handle it properly, but it's okay because he takes responsibility for it, and he's going to get better moving forward. So it's all good.
803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in on that. Yeah, Kevin O'Sullivan, very likable guy. I wonder if we dodged a bullet now anyway, we'll come back to that later on. 803-404-6100. We'll wrap up hour number 1 when we return. It's the early game. 6:50 as we wrap up hour number 1 on your Tuesday morning, discussing a lot of college baseball from the regionals last night to the transfer portal that opened yesterday and what we saw from South Carolina's movement, and discussing what is, I don't know if it's going to be a developing story, because I feel like Florida has broken out all the brooms and got all the grounds crew out, and they're like, clean this thing up ASAP.
Apology, official statement, graphic, AD, moving better, getting better, moving forward. Check. I think we did everything. I think everything we needed.
Now, the question would be, I mean, Kevin O'Sullivan is one of those coaches. Steve Spurrier was annoying, right, at Florida, but he wasn't like this. Kevin O'Sullivan is widely regarded as hated. Like, and I'm one of those people that uses the word hate. I don't use it often because I think it's a very, very strong word in the English language. But he is hated.
I saw across several different websites. They wasn't copy and pasted. The phrase came up that he was a spectacular butthole. Spectacular.
Yeah.
Not just a regular one.
Yeah.
Like, he
excels in this field.
He's great at a lot of things, and that is one of them. Being a butthole is very high up there.
Look, and South Carolina fans do not like him. By and large, South Carolina fans. Number one, he's got a Clemson background. He's got some Clemson assistant background coaching there that helps to that. He is a Jack Leggett protege, if you will. So with this being said, it's okay to dislike him and hate him so much when he's not your coach. Would you take this if he was your coach?
Since 2008, since Sullivan's arrival at Florida, no college program has more CWS trips, super regionals hosted, top 8 national seeds, and NCAA tournament bids than the Florida Gators. We've been having all this conversation about where our baseball program is, where it's been. We just had the worst season ever. Oh, by the way, did Florida beat us by a touchdown? By 3 touchdowns, I believe, this past, when we played them this year. Was it 22-3?
Yeah.
Not 3 touchdowns, I'm sorry. 2 touchdowns, a field goal, and a safety, right? They scored a lot of points on us. And my question is, would you trade it? Would you trade the success that Florida has obviously had? 16 NCAA berths, 16 straight tournament appearances, World Championship appearances, World Series appearances, national number 1 seeds. Would you trade it, but you got to have this spectacular butthole for your coach? Are you willing to have that as a trade? Yes or no? 803-404-6100. Are you willing to trade? On one hand, your head coach of your program is widely regarded as a spectacular butthole. On the flip side, he's a good coach. He wins a lot, and his teams are very successful.
I feel like most people, if you say no, you're not being honest. You're trying to take the high road on this.
That was Sophie's choice here.
Now, Kevin O'Sullivan is.
Need I remind?
I tell you what, is Kevin O'Sullivan the ace of spades for college coaches? Have you got another one?
That is
a bigger. I'm talking baseball.
No,
I'm talking basketball.
I think the first. Well, yeah. Okay. I think the first thing that might come to your mind in baseball is maybe Tony Vitello, but he's not this same. He's just annoying. He's more along the Spurrier lines of annoying. And we haven't had.
He's the energetic guy that you run into at 6 a.m. in the morning. You're trying to get up and you're trying to go to the gym, and you run into him at the gym, and he's like, "Come on, we're gonna do 7 miles, and then we're gonna lift a whole bunch of weights, and then we got to do some core exercises." And you're like, "Just pipe it down, man."
I feel like you would describe him as a young punk. If he was older, you'd be like, "Look at that young punk over there." That's not how people have described Kevin O'Sullivan. Consensus is that, hey, not the best dude. Not the best dude to work with, work for, be around, all of those different types of different observations. However,
read those stats again.
I will read them again. Since 2008, no college program has more CWS trips, super regionals hosted, top 8 national seeds, and NCAA tournament bids. Since 2024, they have obviously not missed because they go to the NCAA every year, 16 straight. They went to the College World Series last year, College World Series, the runner-up before that. They hosted the year before that, 2021, they hosted again. 2020, which was played by COVID, they were ranked number 1 when that season ended. So I position again. Looking at where our program is now currently, would you make this trade for a spectacular butthole? Yes or no? 803-404-6100.
I'll get to some of these. And
Spectacular.
I've got Paul weighs in. It says it's like when you have Draymond Green. Someone dirty on your team, you love him. But when he's not on your team, you hate him. I'm kind of with you, with Paul, and then a couple of you. We'll read some of these. Hour 2 on the way. Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder and First Palmetto Bank. Now that we're into the month of June, you might actually be starting to think about the back half of the year. Can you believe it? We're almost halfway through the back half of the year. Well, guess what? If you're thinking about refinancing, if you're thinking about building a home in the back half of the year, you're thinking about buying a new home, the first thing you need to do is call Jacob Crowder today. See what the interest rates are, see what some down payments might be, and how much your monthly mortgage payment could be. It all impacts your budget, and you need to know these numbers. So call Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank today. He'll help you just like he helped me in June about 5 years ago. Get the right interest rate, the right loan, and the right monthly mortgage payment to fit your budget. 803-719-1005. Again, that's 803-719-1005. First Palmetto Bank, locally owned and operated right here in the Midlands. So Jacob has local decision makers for quick and precise underwriting. Give him a phone call today. Tell him Bill Gunner sent you.
Still working that earlier tie-up, Ermine Road between Platte Springs Road and Old Barnwell Road. Sunny and 89 today, 82 tomorrow with some late afternoon or early evening showers. Some showers on Thursday. High Wednesday will be 82, Thursday 81. And then we get cloudy conditions for Friday. It warms back up to 89. We are going to see some thunderstorm possibilities really from about Saturday into the start of next week. Just another pattern like that for us. But currently we are clear, and it's 62 on 107.5 The Game.
7 a.m. as we have you rolling along here on your Tuesday morning, third day of June. And is this the period, Preston, where the teachers are like, all right, we're here.
We're here.
We're good.
Coast is clear.
You've woke up for like the second day in a row, and you're like, I don't know what to do today.
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with any kids.
You're officially into summer now. These next two-ish weeks are like prime time summer vacation.
So for all the teachers and administrators out there in the high schools and the middle schools and the elementary schools and anywhere else where you've been teaching for the last 9 months, congratulations.
Yes.
You've made it.
Yes.
And as you just heard, your reward, some rainy days coming up.
even better, because now you don't feel guilty about riding into your couch. You're like, oh, it's raining outside. I don't have to do anything.
Okay, there you go. So kudos with that. Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, as we got you rolling along here. J.C. Sherbert set to join us coming up in about 10 minutes. We've been talking a lot of baseball that hour. A lot happening in the college baseball world. I'll admit, Preston, if you'd asked like mid-May, how long are y'all going to talk baseball? I was like, today will probably be the last day. And that was mid-May. That was it a Monday or a Friday? I don't know. I just figured that was it. But between the NCAA regionals that I thought were pretty entertaining over the weekend, some games yesterday that got a little entertaining, between South Carolina now trying to figure out their future with the transfer portal, and then also throw on everything Kevin O'Sullivan being, well, Kevin O'Sullivan. We were able to get a whole first hour out of college baseball.
To the max, yeah. And for the tournament, it's been really fun. There's been upsets. There's been seeds that have gone down. The SEC is still clamoring. There's still some folks alive. So I think for what it's worth, it's been entertaining so far.
Yeah, so the matchups are all set now for the Super Regionals, and to me, the one that we are going to keep an eye on is Coastal Carolina heading down to Auburn to take on the Auburn Tigers. And it was brought up to me yesterday, and I do think this is an interesting question about the reseeding of the potential thought of reseeding the NCAA tournament. I don't know. I mean, I think you could kind of have it done pretty quickly, I would assume, because a perfect example is does Southern Mississippi, or Miami, I don't know how to exactly phrase this, but like who now does Coastal doesn't have an easier path than say like a Louisville, who eliminated Louisville was in the National Regional. Louisville didn't actually eliminate Vanderbilt. Wright State did. But you reward Louisville now as more of the number one seed, even though they were not a national seed, against Coastal Carolina, who was a national seed at 13, but now has got to go play the number 4 team in the country. Does that make sense? I'm trying to word this.
I understand what you're saying. I have to look at it on paper to see exactly what, but I would say – yeah, I get it. I get it. But I wonder why we haven't done that to this point.
Yeah, I don't either. And I wonder, somebody might have a much better answer than I do, and I'd be interested to hear it. But it just kind of would make sense to me with how things have kind of gone. It feels like Coastal Carolina is being punished a little bit more than, say, again, a Murray State. Murray State gets out of their regional. Now they got to go to Duke. Not that Duke's bad. Duke just wasn't a national seed.
By the way, I heard the Duke coach yesterday say something about their blue-collar mentality. I was like, come on, man. Duke does not have those two things don't match. But anyway.
Speaking of, there is obviously 8 series to be played. Only 3 of them feature national seeds against each other. Obviously, Coastal Carolina traveling to Auburn. Tennessee's got to travel to Arkansas. And then you've got Florida State and Oregon State. And I don't know if you and I say reseed, but I don't know if you wouldn't just bump everybody up to where Arkansas, who is the number 3 national seed, doesn't become the number 1 seed. And then in this case, you would have Auburn become the 2 seed. North Carolina become the 3 seed. Everybody kind of slides up the line to fit in where they should, and then you come back and you reseed, say, the West Virginias or the Arizonas, the Texas San Antonios, the Miamis and the Louisvilles. If you don't go in and just reseed them and then go, all right, here's the new pairing for the Super Regional.
Yeah, that all works. They haven't done it to this point. Obviously, we've seen with college football that they can change it on a dime. So maybe next year they might do that.
And maybe this is the answer, because this texter weighs in and takes a line out of the Kevin O'Sullivan book where he uses a curse word and says, I'm an idiot. Yeah, it's not that dumb of an idea, actually, because why isn't it done? Like, why wouldn't you just make the teams who earned it slide up a little bit and get the easier matchups? So, but Kevin O'Sullivan already affecting people this morning. 803-404-6100. So we've been talking about that. Obviously, we've been talking, our most important things today was the South Carolina aspect of the transfer portal. They lose guys yesterday. And, Preston, we kind of went through the list of the guys they lost. That's why I ask, like, do you look at this as major losses? Roman Kimball, a guy who didn't play all that much or didn't pitch all that much this past season. You got guys like Tyler Pitzer, on the other hand, who were expected to be a big part of next year's team, who are off to wherever they're going to go. Eddie Copper, who didn't pitch at all this year because of the injury and was part of the story from thebigspur.com. You have lost some players that you didn't want to lose. I think you've also lost some guys that maybe you're like, all right, they were part of the worst team in modern baseball history for South Carolina.
We don't know what we lost versus what's coming in. So every team is losing. Matter of fact, we just talked how great Coastal did, but guess what I just saw yesterday? Coastal had players that were entering the transfer portal. This is something that everybody's going to deal with. Everybody's happening. Yes, there might be some names that you might have thought there were potential for. Yes, there might have been some guys that you thought performed. But the fact of the matter, as I laid out in the first hour, was that, hey, all of these guys were part of what was the worst South Carolina team in modern history. So, that being said, you can stay or you can go. I'm interested in whether or not they left on their own volition or they nudged out the door, what's coming in the door. That's sort of the whole conversation that happens around the transfer portal.
803-404-6100. Again, if you're just wondering, yesterday, as of 7 o'clock, the one guy we have not mentioned, and I don't know, again, if people view this as a loss or how they want to view this, Eli Jerzenbeck, as of at least 7 o'clock last night, had not entered the transfer portal. He was the guy that was expected to be a weekend starter, but unfortunately has suffered arm injuries the last 2 years and has not been able to play. So, again, that's another guy where you'd be like, well, on paper, that's a big loss, but we haven't actually really seen him do it in the last 2 years.
Right.
So that's another part of that. But, again, Roman Kimball, Will Tippett, Jace Woida, Ryan Bakes, Caden Gaskin, Tyler Pitzer, Eddie Copper, Wyatt Evans, Nolan Naraki, Max Kaufer, and Tyler June. Had to get the breath on Tyler June there to get through all of the goes. And then we'll see there very well could be more today. It's not like yesterday was the only day the transfer portal opened. 803-404-6100. We'll get into some football coming up this hour. The month of June, a lot going on. Official visits last weekend, more official visits. Maybe South Carolina about to land their quarterback in this class, a guy who was once committed, who then decommitted, who then we didn't think was going to get. Now they might get him. We'll talk with J.C. Sherbert about all of that coming up here in the next few segments. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It is the early game.
Hey, it's Jen for CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. We were introduced to CHW Cabinetry when we had a flood in our kitchen about 2 years ago, had to completely gut it, and we had such a great experience with them. We decided to use them again when it came to updating a couple bathrooms in our house, and again, great opportunities and great experiences with them. They're very helpful in figuring out what you might need in there, the measurement process, everything goes smoothly. And I'm telling you, if they can do cabinetry, they can make your pantry more effective. Maybe you want to organize your closet. Maybe you're tired of those wire hanging racks. You want to get something different, get some drawers put in a closet. Maybe you want to improve a home office workspace. They can help you with cabinetry for that as well. Just visit chwcabinetry.com, or you can give them a call today at 803-520-6837. Tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry in Lexington, passion from inspiration to installation. Still trying to get things cleaned up there. Ermine Road between Platte Springs Road and Old Barnwell Road. And yeah, that forecast, 89, mostly sunny today. We could see some afternoon, early evening showers tomorrow, high of 82. Some showers on Thursday, and it clears out for Friday when we get back up to 89. Right now, though, the sun is kind of working its way out. It's 62 on the early game.
$7:15 on your Tuesday morning. Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, and joined as always by J.C. Sherbert of thebigspur.com. And J.C., we throw the hard questions at Jamie right off the bat. We may as well do that to you today. We've been discussing a little bit of this Kevin O'Sullivan situation and his outburst. But our question would be, would you take Kevin O'Sullivan, given his history? As a matter of fact, J.C., let me hold it. Preston, give the history real quick there on Kevin O'Sullivan, what he's done.
Well, let's remove his specific name. All right, I don't want to. Let's just say, would you take a spectacular butthole in air quotes? With that being said, he's a spectacular butthole, but since his arrival at a university, no college program has had more CWS trips, more super regionals hosted, more top 8 national seeds, and more NCAA tournament bids since his arrival. So would you rather have the state of your program where we currently sit, or would you rather have a spectacular butthole, but we know he wins?
A spectacular butthole. That's I got to use that somehow.
I wish I could take credit for it, but JC, when in doing research on this coach, I saw that phrase come up several times, and it wasn't copy and pasted. This is what people are saying.
You know, my mom always told me, if you're gonna, it's fine if you want to be that way, but you better be really good at what you do. I tell my stepkids that as well. You know, obviously, when South Carolina hired Mark Kingston, Kevin O'Sullivan was a candidate for the job, and they sort of went down the road a bit with it, and it just didn't work out. He won his national championship at Florida that year. I always thought Florida baseball was kind of weird. It was like, why don't they win? They're in Florida. You could throw a rock and hit a starting lineup in that state baseball lineup. You know, so he's done a terrific job with the Gators. This year was a little disappointing. I think they had higher expectations, obviously, than what they finished. But, you know, compared to obviously Carolina baseball is at its lowest point in 50 years. So, I mean, you'd probably take anybody. Probably take whoever, you know, right now, you know, if you're looking to make a change. But, you know, just in general, to answer your question, you know, I don't know that – I think there was a time, yeah. But with the way things are, like, overall at South Carolina right now, and there's a – you know, baseball notwithstanding, there's a really good vibe.
Yeah. You
know, in other sports and stuff. I don't know that somebody like that necessarily fits. But it's always a sliding scale. I mean, winning's winning, and that's the bottom line. That's what everybody wants to do. So, you know, I would probably say they'd probably try to find somebody that was a winner that, you know, fit, you know. But, you know, if he called up, you know, if something happened and there was a change tomorrow and he wanted the job, I think it'd be kind of hard to turn him down.
Winning, listen, if you win a lot like that, a lot of people sweep. Look, Florida's not firing him for a reason, because there's video out there of this now, and the guy wins, and Florida knows that. And to find a guy, I hate to say it like this, but it's true. Florida knows we got a guy that wins, and we'll probably be back next year. So let's just roll with him, and they know that they'll be fine and make it happen. A lot to get to with you, JC. Obviously, football now really starting to crank up. The month of June has really changed with official visits. What are you hearing coming off of official visit weekend for South Carolina, where several key guys were hosted on campus?
Yeah, I'm not going to – I don't want to sit here and just say the old normal. It went really well because they always go really well. That's something that I don't know that would serve the audience all that well. But I do think they made some moves. Obviously, there was news last week about a lot of players that didn't visit. But a lot of people want to know about Carter Meadows, the big defensive end for Washington, D.C. I do think they're squarely in the hunt for him. They made a move. You got to survive a lot of other big-time visits. The corner from up that way as well, Kyree Adams from Towson, Maryland, four-star guy, one of the top corners in the country, mentioned that it had changed his recruitment. It looked kind of like he was on the fast track to commit to Penn State, but he had a very good visit. Let me say an impactful visit. That's better. They're all good, but it was impactful. I think they're in really good shape for the offensive tackle, J.B. Shabazz from North Carolina. Really was I feel like they've been trending with him for a long time. Also, K.J. Johnson, who's a corner nickel. Some people like him as a safety from Birmingham, Alabama, Woodlawn High School. Carolina, historically, there's a track record of getting under the radar defensive backs from Alabama and doing quite well with them. Captain Leonardland and Darian Stewart are among those. So he's a good, solid prospect, high three-star guy. West Virginia and the two Mississippis are up next for him, but I think he's kind of on the fast track with the Gamecocks as things stand today. So that's a pretty good group. Travis Johnson is a wide receiver from the 757. We talked about this last week, the 6'3", 4 guy. Gamecocks have to survive Michigan and Virginia Tech coming up, but never count out Mike Fury with anybody. So I think across the board at various levels, South Carolina helped itself this past weekend quite a bit. But everybody had a good time. I mean, it's news when they don't on these official visits, and it's unlike the portal visits, which are fun but business-like, it's still high school kids, and they still roll out the red carpet. And, the whole family atmosphere thing keeps coming up. And, I've seen a lot of good recruiting at a lot of programs during my time, and those schools that you continue to hear that about typically do really well on the trail, which Shane Beamer has done since he's been here.
Well, I mean, it's a great time. You get to eat unlimited chicken fingers and you get steak, and it's a wonderful time for everybody. Now, with that being said, Jay-Z, I heard you say the phrase "survive," and I guess what I'm wondering is there an emphasis on when you have certain players take official visits? Do you want to be first? Do you want to be last? How does that work out?
There used to be kind of and I think largely college football sometimes, Preston, it's a copycat deal. You see what one team does, and everybody thinks that's the way you do it. I think we're going through that right now, largely with after coming off the Alabama dynasty. Everybody wants that next Alabama, all that. Well, Bobby Bowden used to get everybody in the last weekend of January, and Florida State would flip like 10, 15 guys. Mm-hmm. And that's what they did. So last visit. And sometimes I think when you're leading for a player, that's probably pretty good because then you have a chance in case the other visits convince them otherwise. You have a chance to rally. But statistically, I've seen under Beamer just as many guys that visited that first visit weekend that ultimately committed as I have the last weekend. And sometimes with the last weekend, guys have already made up their mind. They're just kind of on a trip, and they can always commit someplace else to cancel on you. So there's different philosophies with it. I don't think statistically there's one way that's better than the other. I think it's just how it is. Now, the reason I said survive is because anytime, I think like, let's say high-pressure sales, they all had to decide by Monday where they're going to school. There's a deadline, hard deadline, nothing. I think Carolina would get 5 to 7 of these guys, right? But, the trip wears off. You come back to reality, you go other places. You get to kind of more fairly compare and contrast. So if you're the team that made that impression then, time changes things, and it's more of a decision. So you gotta survive it, because coming off of a visit like this, you're probably in the pole position, if only for a day. And so that's why I said that. Plus, when it's the who's who of college football, I mean, I think who is it? Is Carter Meadows? It's like the three schools left are the last two national champions, Ohio State and Michigan, plus Penn State, who had Abdul Carter as the number 3 overall pick. So it has a long history of recruiting Maryland and D.C., because it's right up the road. But so that's survival right there if you're South Carolina.
803-404-6100 if you want to text in on any of that. Did you ever have a bad official visit?
I had a less good one. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I got a chance.
What made it stand out? You don't have to name
Pop-Tarts?
Yeah, like
Capri Sun.
No, the vibes with the players was not great.
Really?
Yeah, it was not great as it was other places.
I guess I didn't even think about that happening with the vibe with other players.
Yeah.
I guess I was so focused on
Yeah, well,
that's critical.
It was
critical.
The players were not happy about the coaching staff, and they let us know.
Really?
Yeah, they were like,
okay.
yeah, you probably don't want to do this.
So, JC, I mean, you talk about that, lining up players. I don't know off the top of my head, just as Preston brought it up, how they go about lining up. Like, I think with, was it Kieri Adams? I don't know who they had, but I believe probably had like someone like Tree Babalade or Dylan Stewart or someone from his portion of the country.
You got to match personality types. You got to match personality types.
They match personality. I think Judge Collier was maybe a guy that showed him around, but there's some psychology that goes into it, actually. But Preston's right. I don't worry about that with Carolina football right now, because and you kind of worry about it less these days, guys, because if you have massive unhappiness, guess what? They'll hit the transfer portal. They won't even be there to poison your recruiting during the summer. So, and I'm not saying that anybody that left this year from Carolina was disgruntled. I mean, most of those guys are, they left for other reasons, mainly playing time. But I don't worry about that. Now, there was a time I was probably like, well, Carolina needs to avoid them hanging out with these 5 players, But these days with the portal and then the disgruntled guys, by this point, they're all gone. So anywhere in the country, I think. So, but you can your current players can wreck your recruiting. I mean, if they're not happy. So it is a big issue. It's critical that they get everybody gets a good vibe, like Preston said.
One of the things, we only got about 2 minutes left, but JC used to bring this up. Clemson would get guys up there in the summer. This is pre-official visits during the summer, but you mentioned how great going up there. You got the lake, and it's a little cooler and everything. And down here, especially the way the stadium used to be set up and how everything was, it wasn't the nicest facility for summertime visits, but Preston, I want you to think back to maybe if you came up here for a camp during the summer at Summerville versus what you see over there now around the stadium and how that area has grown.
It's a total night and day difference between what it was and what it is now, for sure. You don't have to walk by and smell those onions from the farmer's market anymore by the stadium. It's a whole different deal. Yeah, it's a lot nicer over there now, for sure.
And JC, you've seen the evolution of South Carolina football in terms of getting kids on campus during the summer and changing kind of the way it looks and the way it feels.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, it's a blessing from the good Lord in heaven for Coach Holtz and Spurrier that they didn't have summer official visits back then, because you go up to Clemson, like you said, Clemson used to be really good at having guys come in. Sammy Watkins, I remember, went to a camp for an entire week, and it's the lake. I mean, you recruit against places like North Carolina. Chapel Hill's great in the summertime by comparison. And Columbia just wasn't set up for it, but now it is. I mean, they take I think they all went over to Shane Beamer's house. They'll hit a pool sometimes. They do a great job. I mean, and the facilities. People, I think when they built the long operations building and then didn't have winning seasons, everybody kind of questioned it. There was a group of disgruntleds that were like, well, I don't know why we even have this, because it hasn't led to wins. And I'm like, well, it's probably not going. I mean, it's for recruiting and stuff like that, and it's set up great. So I think it is night and day different. And, you know, Carolina, I think under Beamer, they sign about half of the guys that make official visits, which is a pretty stellar number in the summer, official visits in the summer.
803-404-6100. We'll come back. Preston will get into a little bit of what this month of June looks like with J.C. Sherbert for Shane Beamer in South Carolina football. We'll cover that and get J.C.'s thoughts on that. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. Tuesday morning, joined by J.C. Sherbert of thebigspur.com. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years they've been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And it's that proven history that is your assurance that their professionals are going to get the job done in a timely, in a safe, and in a pleasing manner for you and your operation. So whether it's your home or your business, whether you're here in Columbia or whether you're in Charleston or Greenville, Florence or Aiken or Augusta, Mid-State Roofing is there to help you with any roofing needs that you have. And one of the reasons they've been in business for nearly 30 years, being the proven leader, is because they are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You give them a phone call. Even right now at 7:30 on a Tuesday morning, you'll speak with an on-call technician. If you call during hours, a Mid-State Roofing employee. And that's just one of the reasons that Mid-State Roofing stands out. Their customer service and the way they're willing to help their friends or their customers. So give them a phone call today and line up a maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Still in the cleanup stages. We're working an accident, Divine Street near Woodrose Street and Rabin Road at Faro. There's a little bit of a slowdown there as well. And your forecast looks pretty nice for today. Sunny and 89. Later in the day tomorrow, we'll see some showers, but the daytime high will be 82. And showers a possibility for Wednesday, 81 for the high there before we get out of the rain pattern, at least for a day. 89 with partly cloudy conditions on Friday. Right now, though, sitting at 62 on the early game.
Right now, the summertime and downtime seems like so far off. We just got out of a staff meeting a little bit ago, and we're starting a journey today of 23 straight days of no days off as a coaching staff because of what we do in the month of June, whether it be, trying to develop your own team that's here right now for summer school and they're already going through workouts, the summer camps that we have, whether it be team camps or individual camps with high school prospects that are coming, or the youth camp that we have in a couple weeks, or recruiting weekends. We have 3 official visit weekends starting today. So here in about 2 hours, we've got 9 guys that'll be coming over to my house, their families and our coaching staff for dinner and fun tonight here at my house. So we got a busy 23 days coming up, but certainly once that slows down and we get to July, we'll have a little bit of time to catch our breath before the season. Nothing too crazy. Obviously, we live in a great state where you don't have to go far. So there's so many things here in the state of South Carolina, whether it be the beach or getting up closer to the mountains that you can enjoy in the summertime. We are going to take a little trip up to Boston after July 4th. I love history. My son Hunter, he's into history, so we're going to go up there and do a lot of the Revolutionary War stuff, Red Sox game, and let the girls shop and do whatever it is they want to do as well. So that'll be a quick little family trip in July. But other than that, we're kind of taking it easy here in South Carolina.
You hear that from Shane Beamer. Not only did he give us the football schedule, he also gave us his schedule, just so we would know. But, JC, it is amazing from when you and I really were covering recruiting and everything, the evolution of the month of June from just being about team camps and individual camps and evaluations to now trying to almost put your whole recruiting class together between now and the 4th of July.
Oh, yeah. I guess they say now that 40 is the new 30 or whatever. I hope that's the case. Hell, I hope 60 is the new 50 and 70 is the new 60 too. But it's June is the new January. And, like we mentioned before the break, there was a time when maybe this would have not been a welcome development for South Carolina just because of the distinct difference between Columbia during the summer when students aren't there and Columbia during school time. It's different. It's a different animal, but that's okay, because Carolina's made the moves football-wise and university-wise as well to make it a great time. And, June's critical because not only, Bill, do you have your official visits like you do in January, but you've got all the camps. You're continuing to evaluate 2027, 2028, getting as many guys in as you can to get exposure to your program. And that's different. I mean, we used to not have – there were unofficial visits that took place during the summer, but we used to not have officials going on at the same time as camp. So it's the 1 month where now with high school recruiting, because I know in February we were sitting here lamenting how boring it was. This is the month in college football now where you don't have to worry about the transfer portal. You don't worry about everything else that's going on, I guess. You can really dig in and focus on high school recruiting, which is special. I mean, it's still exciting. It's just not as exciting in January as it once was. And then there's so much going on in December that it gets lost as well because of the portal. But this June is the month for recruiting these days, and I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it. I'm fired up about seeing who everybody lands and how it all develops.
No, you're right about that. Preston, you go back to your days as a player. What was the month of June like for you back then?
June was, you go to class in the morning, you go lift weights, and you go hang with the boys.
Very laid back.
Yeah, pretty laid back. There wasn't a lot going on. You take your 1 or 2 classes. You go with your lift time. If your lift was before class, hopefully you wanted to get that lift early in the morning, so that after class you just had the whole afternoon before you went to Seawells to eat for dinner that evening. So yeah, it was not June was a very laid back time. It's kind of boring. Again, it's Columbia in June. Many of your friends are not here. Most people are not here, so I mean, there's a lot of team bonding time, I guess. There wasn't a lot going on during that time in June.
JC, I mean, again, everything has evolved so much. This coming weekend, Landon Duckworth will be on campus. Several other big-time prospects, including Noah Clark, who has now set a commitment date for July the 2nd. But those 2 guys in particular, trying to land your quarterback in this class when a quarterback room can evolve on you very quickly in the offseason, and then also talk about the defensive lineman Noah Clark, who's now set an official commitment date for July the 2nd.
Yeah, I put in a crystal ball prediction for the Gamecocks to get Duckworth. I actually reported it on Saturday morning and decided to go. I don't know why we don't do more crystal ball predictions at 24/7 anymore, but we don't. So I did it, and I jumped in the boat, just kind of let it all hang out there. But, yeah, apparently, if you kind of think about it, you look at the quarterback room for this year. You got Sellers and Doty and Air is young, and Cutter Woods is a promising true freshman. But what if Sellers has a great year and goes pro, Doty's out of eligibility, and then the loser, if it's between Air Nolan and Cutter Woods, the loser of that job could easily go. I mean, and I'm not predicting that. I'm just saying that in college football these days, quarterbacks, they'll leave. Ohio State recruits as well as anybody in the country at quarterback. Year in, year out, they stack them. But look at how many quarterbacks, including Aaron Nolan and Quinn Ewers left Ohio State, and Kyle McCord left. They had to hit the portal and get Kansas State's quarterback to go win a national title this year. And so they say ABC, always be recruiting, always be recruiting that position. And Landon Duckworth is a guy that, when he committed early, I didn't think it was state just because it was way too early. He's not an in-state kid, but and I'll admit I was pretty skeptical with Ole Miss and Florida State kind of in the mix. But Mike Shula's done a really good job with him building a relationship, really kind of reselling the program. I believe that I believe that's the right type of QB plus athleticism. I mean. You don't have to be Lenore Sellers running. Not many people are, but it's very helpful if you are a plus runner these days, just because the defensive lines are so good. Defenses are fast. We've seen how that works out for South Carolina. Also a very accurate passer. Got a lot of tools. Our guys at 24/7 really like him a lot. So I think that's exciting news. And if you look at the numbers, which is what you're always kind of recruiting for down the road, they probably need him to come in. And it wouldn't surprise me to see them, like they have done frequently, maybe get a potential depth guy in the portal too, if you lose, multiple quarterbacks out of that room heading into 2026.
Hey, JC, you made an error real quick when you were talking. You said ABC stands for always be recruiting, and that's incorrect. I need you to say that properly, sir.
Man, I messed that up, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
ABC is always be closing.
That's a good one too.
ABR.
I thought maybe it was always be recruiting.
That's right. Always be recruiting, not recruiting. We don't.
Yeah, so I can get by.
We don't need nobody recruiting around here. We need some people recruiting.
My bad.
People that recruit.
Like
people that recruit get 3-star athletes. We need people that recruit.
Yeah, you got to recruit.
Yep.
But no, man, I mean, this is the first of like 5 hours of talking about this stuff I have to do today. So forgive me if I messed that up. I apologize.
Always be recruiting.
803-404-6100. We'll come back, wrap up the hour with J.C. Sherbert. You're listening to The Early Game. We're wrapping up hour number 2 with J.C. Sherbert, as you can go to thebigspur.com and check out all the great content. John Whittle keeping you updated on what is happening with the baseball program. Hal McGranahan doing a great job there, trying to keep up with all the recruiting as we hit the month. Alex Jones doing a phenomenal job covering all the teams. And, J.C., you've got a great – it's not an article, but it's a post up. And we're talking about recruiting and going into the month of June and official visits and getting commitments. You've got a post up discussing the South Carolina 2025 blue chip ratio. And it might, I don't know if people might realize after you talk about this that it's a little bit higher than maybe they realized and on the threshold of a pretty prominent thing to have it at.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my issues with the blue chip ratio. It's the biggest Captain Obvious theory, I think, in all of college football. I mean, so the teams that win the national championships recruit pretty well collectively. Great. If you go dig into like who helps your blue chip ratio and who doesn't, it's, you find a lot of really good players that are not counting toward it, and then a lot of guys that can't play dead in a movie that are at various schools. I'm not talking about South Carolina specifically, but what it is a good overall, looking at your roster, kind of your percentage is kind of a good idea of how you've been recruiting. Have you gone and won battles, because most of the guys that are highly rated have lots of options and that kind of thing. And I think one day in the transfer portal era we are in, we will see a team win it all that's below the threshold, and then we'll all forget about it. But for now, it matters. And so I went through and calculated it, and it is. I was expecting it to be a little lower, kind of in the low 40s, but they added George Wilson and Damon Clowney through the portal this past time, and those guys were both 4 stars coming out of high school, and that's the methodology that is used. So that boosted them up a bit, and then there's a lot of guys when you go with composite rankings that are a little higher than maybe 24/7 Sports individually had them. So that's the number I came up with. It's interesting to look at the roster with all the numbers and things like that, especially like geographic representation is a lot different than it ever has been at South Carolina. And I think, I'm a recruiting nerd, and I'm all into like the recruiting plan, like where do you go, who do you get, how do you canvass the areas. I love to dig into all that stuff because I love geography. And obviously, I've traveled around all these places and know the football talent there. So I got a kick out of digging into what Coach Beamer has done. Darren Usher, before him, Taylor Edwards, and those guys, the coaching staff, they deserve a lot of credit because this is not only a really good roster compared to South Carolina historically, for the blue chip ratio and all that, but the method and the places they're going, like 15% of these players are from either the state of Maryland, the state of Virginia, or the District of Columbia. And that's way different than it ever has been. So I think things are definitely heading in the right direction. A lot of North Carolina players in the mix for 2026. So that's another area to conquer, right? It's kind of like that game Risk, where you used to play the board game. You just got to go get players from as many places as you can and hopefully get more than one and build a pipeline, and you can kind of see it happening.
Questions, Preston Thorne, when you hear blue chip ratio?
Yeah, it all makes sense. It gives me a statement in saying that the expectations are founded. So because they have a roster that can compete, we can no longer sit around and say, oh, poor South Carolina, or those guys over there have it better than us, because we have a roster that seems to fit the criteria for teams that are competing for serious stakes this year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's, and you never know. I mean, not all players are created equal, and the SEC, and everybody's got good players, but the issue with one of the biggest excuses South Carolina has had in football recruiting is the small state thing, and location. We're this, that, and the other. The location has actually been turned into a positive because all those states I just mentioned, it's the closest SEC school to that whole area. And so that's actually a benefit for the Gamecocks.
JC, always appreciate it. Look forward to catching up next Tuesday.
Hey, thanks, fellas. Y'all have a great day.
Appreciate you.
Take care. JC Sherbert, thebigspur.com. Hour 3 on the way.
Hey, Columbia, this is Preston Thorne from Midlands Landscape and Lawn. And Paul Romason, the proud owner of Midlands Landscape and Lawn, wants to remind you that the time is now. Yes, the time is now for you to get your lawn ready to get rid of those pesky fire ants. For over 30 years, Midland Landscape and Lawn has been helping families enjoy their yards without worrying about those little fire ants. So if you got mounds popping up on your lawn or in the play area where your kids are hanging out, just give them a call. Our treatment program is fast, effective, and safe for your family and your pets. Best of all, is guaranteed to keep fire ants away for a full year. Don't wait until someone gets bit. Let's take care of those fire ants before they take over your yard. So call Midlands Landscaping and Lawn or visit midlandlandscapeandlawn.com. That's Midlands Landscape Lawn, midlandlandscape.com, or give them a call at 803-356-8080. It's 803-356-8080.
Divine Street near Woodrow Street. Have a report of an accident there. Also, Killian at I-77, a slowdown you'll find in that area. And we look for a high today of about 89. It's going to be mostly sunny, so certainly going to enjoy that. But then we have a little bit of rain coming in. Tomorrow afternoon, could see some showers, 82 for the high, some showers on Thursday, 81. And then by Friday, we're back up to 89 with partly cloudy conditions. Right now, though, the sun is out, a mix of clouds and sun, and it's 63 on the early game.
$8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, as we get you up and get you going here. Big thank you, as always, to J.C. Sherbert for joining us. A lot of football discussion, ranging from recruiting to what the summer will look like. And Preston, you having done it as a player, as a high school coach, now you kind of cover it like this, and we talk about it, the evolution over the last 25 years of what the month of June is for
everybody.
Everybody is that, how crazy is that for you, the person who lived it?
It's ridiculous. There was a time where there was this thing called a break.
Yeah.
And now they don't have it, and they've just tried to cram so many things in this. And this is my particular thing with high school sports. It's like, hey man, we can relax for a second. It's gonna be okay. And they've made this thing where they have unlimited practices. Teams have essentially started their workouts on Monday, I assume. They go all day. You lift weights. You go to practice from 9 to 12 every day of the week. And it's like, I don't know. We don't need to do all that, especially since, hey, by the way, those high school coaches not getting paid that much money. They're just there, not getting paid. So, I mean, when Shane says that he has 23 days to work in June, well, Shane, guess what? You're getting paid that way. So
right.
I get it. But there's a lot of other coaches in a lot of other places that are doing the same amount of work and not getting paid for it. So I disagree with it, but it is what it is.
But again, big thank you there to J.C. Sherbert for joining us to discuss a little bit about what this month looks like. 89 days away from the Virginia Tech game. We'll talk a little college football coming up in the next segment. DraftKings has put out some of their games of the year line. South Carolina's listed on 3 of those. Virginia Tech game, the Alabama-South Carolina game at home, and the Clemson-South Carolina game. And I'll read you those lines coming up in the next segment and see what you think about them, what others think about them. Also this morning we've been talking about South Carolina's baseball transfer portal, the official opening of the transfer portal yesterday. So there was just a line of people. They had already made their reservations. They were waiting for the portal doors to officially open, and as soon as they did, people jumped in, and we learned officially who South Carolina. We had seen, you see the tweets come out with the graphics and the very finely worded, thank you, respect my decision. Thank you to all the fans. Thank you to all the great administrators.
Baseball doesn't do as many graphics. I'm seeing just straight posts. I saw one player yesterday, he put his home phone number on it. I thought, I was like, hey, man, that seems kind of weird, but okay. Yeah, baseball's a little bit more interesting. But, yes, it always starts with the same sort of format.
So we'll do this again. South Carolina yesterday. Now, this was as of 7 p.m. I've not necessarily looked for an update here as we hit the 8 a.m. hour. But as of 7 p.m. last night, South Carolina with players Roman Kimball, Will Tippett, Jace Hoyta, Ryan Bakes, Caden Gaskin, Tyler Pitzer, Eddie Copper, Wyatt Evans, Nolan Naraki, Max Coffer, Tyler June, all in the transfer portal, at least as of the reporting of last night. Eli Jerzenbeck has announced he's going to enter the portal, but has not officially fallen into the portal just yet. Name not there, but I believe that is to be expected. So at this point, you go, all right, what did we lose from that group? That's what we take away from this. What are we losing from this group? Well, do we think we're losing a key player in Roman Kimball? At least the stats from this past season, Preston, do not suggest that. Now, Roman Kimball was a weekend starter at times 2 years ago under Mark Kingston. For whatever reason, he either couldn't get it together, he got into the doghouse somewhere, something occurred, he did not improve. For whatever reason, he never stepped up in the manner I think they were hoping for, and maybe there was a divide, a misunderstanding. We remember his father coming out on social media and being very forthright and outspoken about what he thought about the coaching staff. Roman
disavowed that.
I was going to say, Roman came back and kind of said, no, I don't agree with my father's stance.
Good for him. Good for Roman.
That was an interesting. But so did they lose anything in Roman Kimball? Did they lose anything in Will Tippett, who played a good bit this year, but the numbers didn't suggest he was a key contributor?
It's yet to see. My stance towards the transfer portal is obviously people have the right to leave, and that's good for them. They have free movement. We have to see what comes back in. Once we see what comes back in to replace them, then we can decide whether it's a net gain or a net loss. Yes, those players, we're familiar with them because we know them, but if we look at the statistics and also when we look at the results, I would suggest that, hey, we can bring people in here to get better results.
And that's probably the way you got to look at it. So, again, you talk about guys like Kimball, Tippett, Ryan Bakes was a guy I know they had high hopes for, but another guy that seemed to fall into the doghouse and never really got out. Caden Gaskin, Eddie Copper obviously didn't do anything this year, but I know was a guy they were high on. Max Coffer, again, another guy that didn't do very much this year. You did lose some guys maybe you wanted to keep. Jace Hoyta is a player that you mentioned it, hit .313 in conference play with 3 home runs. Seemed to be coming along. That feels like a loss. Tyler Pitzer was a pitcher who struggled a little bit during conference play, but was a young guy who I think they hoped would step up and grow a little bit more. Instead, he's going to enter the transfer portal. Nolan Naraki is, again, a player that I use as an example of a loss, but the only reason I use that is because Paul Mainieri wanted to cite the injury to Nolan Naraki as a reason that they had the record they did.
Let me just fall back on base football experience. When we was having conversations last year about the transfer portal in football, we were talking about the linebacker position specifically. We were saying, oh, man, we lost blue chip ratio Stone Blanton, 4-star, and we lost Pup Howard, 4-star. And we were familiar with those guys because those were our guys. We followed their recruiting. We fell in love with them. We were not necessarily thrilled when they left. And then, oh, by the way, here comes this kid from Charlotte. His name is Demetrius Knight Jr., and he has 5 kids, and he's 28 years old. And boy, can he play middle linebacker. And nobody at the end of that season would say, nobody was thinking about the players that had left. We was only thinking about the players that we had gained. So, yes, we were familiar with these names. It might feel like a loss, and maybe it is. Maybe we won't be able to come back and replace them. I'm just saying I don't know it until we find out what they have in store incoming in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
The portal goes 2 ways, right? It goes out and it comes in, and then so we'll see what's coming in.
Some of this also be a referendum, in my opinion, on how well Paul Mainieri can truly handle the transfer portal and recruit. And obviously his staff is involved in that as well. But you're exactly right. You lose guys, you can't whine and cry about it. You got to go out into that portal. There's good other players in the portal. You got to find those and bring those in. So we've talked about that. Also this morning, what is the term for Kevin O'Sullivan?
A spectacular butthole. Spectacular. I saw it on several occasions across the internet. This man was described as a spectacular, air quotes, asterisk, butthole. And he lived up to it this past weekend.
So not only did he have a verbal altercation with members of Coastal Carolina's administrative staff, on-site representatives.
Check.
He also decided to engage East Carolina. And you go, well, come on now, how serious can this be? Well, number one, there's video footage now. Reminder to everybody. Pretty much everybody now has a camera on their cell phone. You're all walking reporters. And then also yesterday, Parker Byrd, an infielder for East Carolina, was on the Pirate Radio in Greenville. He talked about his particular altercation with Kevin O'Sullivan. He doesn't use any curse words, but he is very blunt about what transpired during their little altercation on Sunday morning prior to the East Carolina-Florida game. Here is Parker Byrd on the Pirate Radio network in Greenville discussing his interaction with Kevin O'Sullivan.
Yeah, so I walked into, all right, so we entered on the first base side, but we were in the third base dugout that game, and we were entering, and I was holding the quad board, which obviously you know, but it's the big whiteboard, and I was holding it walking in, and he was already cussing out some of our guys that had already walked by, and all the coaches had already walked by as well, but he started cussing at Zayak and Gabe Beschloss, but they didn't really acknowledge it. Really, they had headphones on and were kind of in their zone. And then I walk around the corner, and he's the first person I saw. I'm like, "Good morning, Coach. How you doing?"
Just being good guy, Parker. Just being good guy, Parker.
Yeah, because, I heard about all the stuff that happened, and, I was trying not to picture him as a bad dude. I was like, it's a bad situation.
Give him grace.
Maybe not his fault. Yeah, literally. And then I turned the corner. I saw him. I said that. He's like, F you. You can stick that whiteboard up your F and A.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, holy. My reaction was, are you serious?
803-404-6100. How do you deal with angry coworkers in the morning? Do you tell them good morning? Do you sense that there's an issue and you avoid them? If you know somebody's angry, are you that person like Parker Byrd there, who I don't think he was poking the bear, but clearly, and the three of us, we do early morning radio, so can't say that we're always coming in here cheery and happy no matter what we sound like when the mics go on at 6 o'clock. might have had some stress from the night before. You've got a younger daughter. Doesn't always go the way you planned as a parent.
Rarely does.
But this poor Parker
Only gonna
Bird.
get worse.
This what'd you say?
I said it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, true, very true.
Things aren't going his way.
Very true. Yesterday, I had to, long story for another time. But poor Parker Bird's just wandering around, holding his whiteboard, and is just trying to, hey, good morning, coach.
Nothing, and which is nothing wrong with that, because sometimes maybe you need that. If O'Sullivan was in kind of a found, hey, what's going on? It kind of snaps you out of like, okay, wait a minute, I need to get out of my groove and my negative vibe and get better. So I respect the guy for doing that. I don't know if he's poking the bear.
No, I don't. I think. Well, he said he had heard. He said he knew there was already a. What do you take on this?
There's a key piece of context that's missing from this story. Parker Bird is a survivor from a boat crash, and he has a half leg. He's an amputee. His leg was cut on his right leg was cut above the knee. He is on the roster. He is not. He pinch hit for this past year, and so when he's having these conversations about him being typically cheery and a little bit, positive. Because he almost died 2 years ago in a boating accident. And so when he's out here saying, hey, coach, how you doing? Good day. That's kind of how he operates because of his life situations.
Yeah.
Obviously, Kevin O'Sullivan did not know that. I'm not sure that would have stopped him because he's a spectacular butthole. He's an equal opportunity butthole to whoever.
Sounds
but
that way.
This is a little piece of context for the story where Parker's like, hey, man, I don't know what's up with you.
You don't know what a bad day is, Kevin. So, yeah, go away.
Yeah.
Let's hear Kevin O'Sullivan. This is number 8, Jen. Now, you just heard Parker Bird's details about what transpired. East Carolina would beat Florida. East Carolina would go on to play Coastal Carolina on Sunday night to advance to the Super Regional. And obviously, after East Carolina beat Florida, no coach is in a great mood, right? But they can be honest. This is Kevin O'Sullivan after the East Carolina game, after losing, being asked how he thought he handled the pregame situation.
Coach, could you address the situation before the game?
I don't want to address that right now.
Nothing there, apology or anything like that?
I handled it properly.
You handled
at the end of the game, yes.
I feel like that's a lot of husbands' words until they realize the wife has, or the significant other has evidence that they did not handle it properly.
Handle it properly. That's everybody's fallback. Yeah, I did. I was right.
But wait, this right here, this is your signature.
Replay the film. Yeah. Kevin, you was on camera from multiple angles. And here's the thing. It wasn't just the players. It wasn't just the admin. It was the field crew. It was anybody who was in his wrath. And Kevin made an apology, and he said that he lost control of his emotions and that he has learned from the incident and he will do better moving forward.
Wah, 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 wah.
Again, pretty much.
He will no longer be a spectacular butthole after this incident.
Again, straight out of the husband playbook of, I messed up. I'm sorry. The only thing he didn't do is go back to Conway and give him flowers or chocolates or anything of that nature. 803-404-6100. DraftKings yesterday, they put out some games of the year. Preston, South Carolina's line against Alabama in Columbia in October. South Carolina's line against Clemson in Columbia in October. I'm going to give you those. Do you agree? Are we being disrespected? Do they not believe in South Carolina?
I'm always here for disrespect. Can we put a chip on our shoulders? Let's do it.
These are home games.
We got the blue chip ratio. What's up?
These are home games. I'll read you the lines and see what you think when we come back. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harveston between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. All right, the Springtacular deals, They've come to a close. But guess what? The Summer of Love Savings event is starting now. You heard that right. The Summer of Love taking place at Love Chevrolet with unprecedented opportunities on a wide variety of award-winning Chevys. That's right. All you need to do is get out there and check out one of their great vehicles, such as the Silverados. I know many of you want one of those nice trucks that they've got in a Love Chevrolet. The Silverado is one of the absolute best in the business. So go visit Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harbison, between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park today. That's right. No hassles, no all-day runarounds, certainly no ridiculous add-on stickers, not to mention the single best price you'll find anywhere. And at Love Chevrolet, that is a guarantee. So go find out for yourself. Visit Love Chevrolet today, and those 14 acres of brand new Chevys, that incredible sales staff. Stop by, tell them Bill Gunner sent you, and together, let's drive.
Divine Street near Woodrow Street, an accident there. Also, still working an earlier tie-up there at Killian Road at I-77. That forecast looking pretty good for today. Sunshine should abound, 89 for your high. Some afternoon showers rolling in tomorrow, 82 for the high. Could see some morning rain on Thursday, that is. Getting all my days mixed up. Some morning and afternoon showers on Thursday, and looking for a high of about 81. Back up to 89 for Friday when the rain clears out. But right now, 63 on 107.5 The Game.
8:21 as we roll along here on your Tuesday morning. Be my final segment. I got to get out of here and go do something. Tyler Head will step in. We'll go to the bullpen, and he will close it out with Preston Thorne and get you through the final 30 minutes of the program. But I did want to get to this. Our buddy who joins us during football season, Brian Edwards of VegasInsider.com, tweeted out yesterday some of the games of the year. DraftKings. Now, we've gone through a couple different sites and talked about odds and lines. DraftKings is one that has grown substantially from their early days of just being player prop type odds, and DraftKings is now one that is used a little bit more frequently. So DraftKings has put out on their sportsbook the games of the year. Some of them you would kind of expect. Let me give you. Marcus Satterfield, formerly the offensive coordinator. Remember those fun days at Nebraska? They are 6.5-point favorites over Cincinnati to start the year. I believe that game is, I think that might be at Arrowhead. I can't remember where that one is. So that's
it is.
Okay.
It is, because the Bussin' with the Boys and the Kelseys were having some going back and forth. Yes, that's why I remember that.
Georgia Tech, Deion Sanders minus Shador minus Travis Hunter, 3.5-point underdog against Georgia Tech, and on a Friday night there to start the season.
Okay. Brent Keys gave his players rings for going 7-6 last year, so we'll see what comes of the new year.
One other one, just because we've been talking Coastal Carolina, Virginia, minus 12.5 on opening weekend at home against Coastal Carolina. So we'll be pulling for Tim Beck in that one. South Carolina, we've talked about this. This one isn't a change. South Carolina minus 9.5 against Virginia Tech per DraftKings on Sunday, the 31st. We on board with that? That seem right? Seem good?
That feels right. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know a lot about Virginia Tech, but if we are who we think we are, then that feels right.
Okay. If we are who we think we are. Good sentence. So now let me go to South Carolina, Alabama. Okay. South Carolina, Alabama. This game will be, I'm trying to go back and look at the exact date. It's in October. I believe it's the 18th, it might be the 25th, I believe. Yes, the 25th, the week after the fair. Good news, everybody. Alabama does not come the week of the fair, and you have to deal with all that. Preston, if I told you Alabama was favored, not really disrespectful, right? You'd say okay? No? Yes?
Sure, but just because everybody loves Alabama.
Okay.
Even though I'm not sure why we love Alabama.
If I told you Alabama was favored by a field goal, 3.5 points. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What if I told you they're favored by a touchdown and a half? 7.5-point favorites against South Carolina at home in Columbia. Likely to be a night game, I would assume. Obviously, it's a very early line. Are we feeling disrespected by this?
Yeah, you can take disrespect from this because there's not a lot of reason.
They lost their quarterback. Mm-hmm. They're gonna have a new quarterback. I know it's gonna be later in the season. By the way, I believe they will be coming off of a game, and I always play into this. The week before Alabama plays South Carolina, you know who they play? You want to guess? Third week in October, they play Tennessee.
So you're saying they'll be beat up?
Not only will they beat up, I think it's a bit of an emotional letdown. You got that big game. Then you got to travel to South Carolina. They're going to come into an environment that's probably going to be unless something is going completely wrong, it's probably going to be a pretty charged environment. Much like last year, I kind of looked and saw that Oklahoma game and said, I like South Carolina in that game. I'd actually go ahead and take South Carolina money line in this game against Alabama. And again, it's not because I think South Carolina is necessarily better than Alabama. I'll look at when you play teams and how it lines up. And the fact that South Carolina will get Alabama, most importantly, coming off of that Tennessee game, I think that's a huge thing for South Carolina in that game.
That is possible. We'll see what Tennessee is yet because there's still a huge question mark on what Tennessee is going to be with their quarterbacking situation.
True. By the way, Alabama, 12.5-point favorite over Tennessee in that game at home.
Well, I can see that because they don't have a quarterback that we know of yet. We'll see what happens with that. But we do, and we have a proven coach, which Kalen DeBoer is unproven at Alabama at this moment. So I guess what I would love to know as far as what do they see as the differences. Is it the blue chip ratio? Is it just because they have a bunch of guys? Is it just because they have crimson helmets that they wear in? I don't know. But Nick Saban's not on the sideline anymore, and Bear Bryant's not there anymore. So I'm not sure why Alabama's getting that much leeway based on what they did last year and losing the main component of their offense.
Let's fast forward to the Saturday after Thanksgiving, Clemson, South Carolina. If I tell you Clemson is favored, what's your reaction?
Fair.
Really?
Yeah, that's fair.
How many points would you feel? At what point do you say the line becomes a little disrespectful?
After a touchdown.
So 5.5, you feel safe with that. You feel good if Clemson's 5.5, even though we'll start using the numbers properly. We've beaten them 2 out of the last 3 years.
We have
our quarterback back.
They do also.
Yep. here in Columbia. Again, maybe a night game. I don't know on that one. I don't know what we'll end up getting.
Listen, I'm down to take disrespect.
I'll take disrespect.
We can take disrespect however it comes. However, when you look at how it's sort of laid out, I would say it's more disrespectful that Alabama is favored than Clemson. Because who is Alabama? What has Kalen DeBoer done? Nothing at this point in the SEC. That other guy in the orange, the purple britches, I don't like him. You don't have to like him, but the numbers speak. He has a quarterback. They have several draft picks go all through that pick. I can understand that one. I don't like the people in purple britches, but I get it.
But you're okay with that one. That one we won't cry disrespect quite
We're still going to beat them, but I get it.
Okay, that's what I wanted to see. I saw these yesterday. The fact that the Clemson game was more than a field goal, which is about home field advantage. Again, I'm going by DraftKings. You can go to DraftKings.com and check it out. They've got their games of the year. But I think I saw it yesterday and was a little surprised that it was a little over. If it had been 3.5, I'd probably go, okay, I understand that. 3 points for home field advantage. But this is saying without home field advantage, they'd be an 8.5-point favorite.
Yeah.
If you buy into how Vegas does things.
That's fair. Like I said, Clemson's getting a lot of juice right now between the mock drafts, between the quarterbacks, between Cade Klubnik coming back, the mock drafts, the roster that they have, the blue chip ratio, whatever you want to do it. Yes, Clemson is getting a lot of juice. There's a lot of preseason hype. People are saying that they're back, so that makes sense why you might see that number. I'm okay with that. The Alabama one, nah.
Talking season. That's why I bring it up. Talking season officially here. 803-404-6100. I'm going to get out of here. Preston and Tyler have got you covered. What you got up for the next segment?
How much is $1 million worth?
Oh, boy. Interesting. We will, Tyler and Preston will get into that. I will be back tomorrow. Y'all have a good rest of the day. Tyler and Preston up next. You're listening to The Early Game.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, it's no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance company to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are. School, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will take care of it for you. Now, if you're at home and you're looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows or mirrors, and Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. So I say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
A report of an accident, Divine Street at Woodrow Street. Do have an accident there. Killian Road at I-77 also causing a slowdown due to an earlier tie-up. And that forecast looking good today. Sunny, 89. Tomorrow afternoon, showers could be rolling in. Could see some again later that night into the overnight hours. 82 for your high on Wednesday. Thursday, some showers during the day. 81 for the high, back up to 89 without rain on Friday. Right now, sun is out. It's 63 on 107.5 The Game.
For traveling through time, which I call a time machine.
Welcome back into the early game. Preston Thorne, Tyler Head joining us, and we have the question: how much is $1 million worth? Because we start having these conversations about Transfer Portal Tuesday, about NIL, about all these conversations, and lately around here, we've been having this softball conversation because, oh, guess what? We've gotten into that game. There's been a lot of conversations about that. And there's a story that I've been following. It's been in the background on the low burner, sort of humming around about what's sort of happening. And as we were progressing in softball, this other story was coming around. And it sort of, when it hit, I was like, that's really interesting. Texas Tech pitcher Najiri Kennedy is softball's highest paid player.
Correct.
Now, when you're talking about highest paid players, we've heard numbers come out from basketball. We heard about Cooper Flagg. You heard some numbers come out from him, which were like, woo. Okay. But Najiri Kennedy is the highest paid player in softball by a lot. She's the pitcher for Texas Tech. And she gets how much, Jen?
If you want it back, you're going to have to pay me $1 million.
$1 million. I can't be the only person that when I heard that number early last year, I was like, what?
That's got to be more than the budget that I would say at least 95% of college softball programs have to spend in NIL.
I'm glad you asked that. Well, when you say that it might be more than the budget, it might be more than their total budget, not necessarily just their NIL budget.
That's also true.
But some of their total budgets.
The vast majority of coaches are not making that much.
So check this out. So we talked about during the baseball World Series, Murray State's budget was $8,858,000.
Yep.
So what Najiri Kennedy agreed to get paid to transfer from Stanford last year as a pitcher to Texas Tech is more than Murray State's budget, who's moving on.
Correct.
$1 million, to quote the famous philosopher Austin Powers, right?
That's
Dr.
correct.
Evil, to quote Dr. Evil. And you might be thinking, man, that seems like a lot. And from all the research, I said the market was somewhere between $100,000 to $150,000. And then Texas Tech comes in with $1 million and say, no, we want this person, we want this player, and we're willing to pay this amount of money.
Texas Tech's on a little bit of a spending spree with their sports. Football's also got an uptick in NIL, so they wanted the best pitcher. They got the best pitcher, and she's lived up to it.
Generational talent. We throw that word around very often, kind of rarely. It doesn't come around often. Najiri this year was 30-5. She had an ERA of .089.
Best in the nation.
Best in the nation. She had 279 strikeouts. She also
was top three.
Top three. Now, here's where the clincher comes in. She led the team in home runs.
Yep.
And she was fourth on the team in batting average.
Yeah, she can do it all.
She literally does it all. And to put that also, she's also leading Texas Tech to their first College World Series ever.
By the way, they just downed the Dynasty yesterday to get there.
Jen, do we have that clip where the Texas Tech Red Raiders are now in the conversation with Oklahoma?
Allred's first pitch swinging into right. Barker loads up. Davis to the plate. Save! Texas Tech has done it! They end the greatest dynasty in college softball history. The Red Raiders storm to the championship series.
So on the arm of Najiri Kennedy and bat, Texas Tech went from never having won a conference. When I was reading this, they had not won a conference title ever in softball to 1 year later, with the signing of this generational talent, they are now in the College World Series.
She's like Cam Newton.
That's a very good comparison.
He goes to Auburn.
Not for free either.
Not for free. And God, what could he have made in the NIL era if that was around back then? He got off, or Auburn got off easy when it came to what they had to pay him to go there. But he comes in with a team of not really a whole lot of talent around him and literally carried them to a national championship.
If you look on that roster, there's one other NFL player on that offense.
One of the offensive linemen had, I believe, a start in the NFL, but that was it. Literally nobody. I mean, Nick Fairley was on the defensive side of the football, and he's notable, but on offense, literally nobody but Cam Newton. He carried that team, that program, to a national championship. As soon as he goes to the NFL, people realize, like, yeah, Gene Chizik isn't really that great of a head coach, and got fired a little over a year later.
There's also that. So I think this is a very, very poignant story for the NIL transfer portal era, because this is a young woman who was already at Stanford doing very well, leading them. She gets this opportunity at Texas Tech. She's a junior, by the way. So I don't know what the number is going to be for next year. I'll have to sign a multi-year. I don't know how this works, but she's a junior. There is no leaving college early for them, so she'll be back next year. And so essentially she's given herself an opportunity to make a large amount of money. And not only that, she delivered. What else could you deliver on this?
I mean, the only thing left is to win the World Series, which they're taking on Texas, to do now. So that would be just the icing on top of the cake. But yeah, she has more than earned what they've paid her at this point.
Right. So when you start having this, because as I said, when I first heard this, I was like, $1 million for a player, a softball player? When you start looking at these budgets, like, okay.
You ask the question all the time, how bad do you want to win?
How bad do you want
They wanted Texas Tech softball to take that next step, and they paid for it, and they got it.
And so where the money came from was a very well-off Texas Tech benefactor who was a softball alumna.
Mm-hmm.
And her family, they wanted to see Texas Tech take that next step. Why I think this is interesting, obviously, because now softball, we're in this conversation now.
Sure.
And we had a lot of success through a different route in the transfer portal. We had players that came from lower levels, probably didn't command as much in the NIL market when they were making these changes. But these are the types of conversations that are going to have to be surrounded by softball. And the big question is this the new market, or was this a once-in-a-lifetime thing? And I think that's what they're going to have to try and figure out for softball.
By the way, do you know that Gary Glasgow's in his first year as their head coach?
Good luck, Gary.
Now, how much of the credit goes to him and how much of the credit goes to her?
I'll tell you this. This will forever be on his resume.
Oh, sure.
It's always going to be just like Gene Chizik. Chizik, by the way, was not good before Auburn.
No.
Has not been good after Auburn.
No.
But every time Gene Chizik talks, he gets to say, hey.
Got a ring.
I got a ring.
Got a ring. And it's like, how much did you do for that ring, though? And perhaps the greatest college football player of all time.
Yeah, and so these conversations are going to have to be had. But I just thought this story was bubbling. And now that they've upset and eliminated Oklahoma, who was going for their fifth national championship on her back, and I thought it was definitely time to pull out this story. So keep an eye on that. This is a conversation that wanted to be had, but Is $1 million worth it? Maybe it is.
By the way, the last time they made the tournament prior to this year was 2019. And before that, 2012. This was not a consistently or even close to consistently good program that one player can make that big of a difference.
And oh, by the way, she's getting her Stanford education.
Yes.
So not only is she smart, she's rich, she's athletic. I think the future's pretty bright for Nigeria.
I think she's doing okay for herself.
She's gonna be all right. When we come back, Kevin O'Sullivan, spectacular butthole. We have some more developments. It's the early game. Welcome back into the early game. Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Jen Jensen. We had a little bit of talk about what $1 million was worth, and I feel like these are more conversations we're going to have as we move forward in college sports. But I wanted to get out there to the phone line. Let's go out to David. David has some comments on the baseball team. David, what's up? Appreciate you listening.
Hey, Tyler and Preston. Hey, how y'all? I love your show, and I just wanted to talk about Jeremiah Donati's interview yesterday. I didn't hear it, but I read it this morning in the state paper, and it disappointed me because it seemed like he blamed everybody except Paul Mainieri. It seemed like he was just going out of his way to be nice to him. He dismissed the Big Spur article as being stretches of half-truths, very subjective, and he said that if something was being alarmed in the baseball program, I would know it. And that just came off to me as a bit arrogant and as a bit condescending and a little bit of tone deaf, because they regressed historically this year. Although I love my Gamecocks, they regressed historically this year. But he just went out of his way not to say anything bad about Paul Mainieri and just didn't want to make him mad and still kept him. I don't understand why Paul Mainieri doesn't get any criticism. He said everybody else and just give Paul a chance when they historically did terrible. And I just thought it was a bit arrogant, and if you could just comment, I'll go off the air, and if you could tell me what you think about that, I'd appreciate it.
Appreciate it, David. Appreciate you listening, as always. Now, I haven't had a chance to read or listen. Obviously, we do this early show, but Tyler was in on this.
Yeah, so Jordan Kay from the state newspaper got to talk to Jeremiah Donati over the weekend, and, of course, asked him a lot about, Whittle's article that made the accusations against the baseball program, and what the caller said, David said there was right, that he said there's half-truths in there, and, don't believe everything in the read. Obviously, we know Whittle has a very good reputation, covering the baseball program. My thing with it, though, is, again, we talk about the buyout if you were to move on from Mainieri and the staff be like $7 million. In a year like this where money is so tight across college sports, if you see that you can't make that move and you're going to have to retain him for the next year, wouldn't you put the most positive spin on it you could? Wouldn't you say, yeah, okay, we're working on things and we're going to give him the right resources and all that kind of stuff, where even if you know some of this stuff is happening within your program, knowing that coach is going to have to come back the next season, if I'm Jeremiah Donati, I'm not saying this is what happened, but I would probably put a positive spin on it too. So that's kind of the way that I took what he said. And yes, it's a lot of denying and those kind of things. And, hey, we're going to get guys in. We're going to get them more NIL resources and having better players. He did kind of back up what Mainieri said, saying, well, we didn't think the talent level was as good as it needed to be. And that's what they're obviously working on in the transfer portal this offseason. But that's kind of the way that I looked at it when I read it.
So I would definitely check that out. What I would position to everybody listening is that we're still learning who Jeremiah Donati is as an athletic director.
Sure.
We haven't had many interviews with him. I believe he was on Jay's show earlier. Yeah. He might have been on the station 2-3 times. We saw him with Paul Feinbaum. So I would say, just like we probably evaluate all of our first-year head coaches when we're hearing them, this may be a glimpse into what we're learning about who he is, how he runs his program, how he plans to run his program, maybe how he plans to deal with media or things of that nature, because we're still learning who he is.
Sure.
And so that's what the way I would sort of position that. But one thing, he might have been tone deaf. I don't think across the board has not been described as a spectacular butthole.
No, that's reserved for very special people, I feel like.
And our guy, Kevin O'Sullivan, has made the news. And again, Kevin has a very strong personality. And I would hesitate to say, because people, as you read in the internet, you read in different lines, people jump to, well, what about Tony Vitale? He's kind of, and I'm like, there's a big difference between being prickly, maybe being aggressive, maybe even being annoying, and what the pretty much consensus is about Kevin O'Sullivan, right?
Yeah, and look, Vitello, he's had his little outburst with umpires and got himself thrown out of games.
Which is in-game, and I'm fine with that.
But he's never done this. This is next level, and again, it's one thing to just have a moment and let an outburst happen. It's another thing to not only go after the grounds crew, the associatee, and then the team you're about to play is they're just walking their other dugout, start cursing at them as well. Like, this was a prolonged crash out.
Very good. Word of the day. Our Gen Z word of the day to end the show. Kevin O'Sullivan. Crash out.
Major.
Long ways. He said he let his emotions get the best of him.
Well, he handled it properly, though.
Well, he said he handled it properly. Obviously, that was not properly. Not when you do that on 3 separate occasions. So we'll see what comes of that. Tyler, appreciate you filling in. Appreciate y'all listening, Jen. For Bill, Jen, myself, thank y'all for listening. We will talk with y'all tomorrow. This is The Early Game.
It's Jen for Carolina Stone Craftsman. We had such a great experience with them when we were needing some countertops in our house. We learned about how they offer up great countertops with no compromises, and they start from the customer idea to the fabrication to the installation. I'm telling you, every step of the process was meticulous and just a great experience all the way around. Again, we started touring their showroom. It is fabulous. They have an outdoor showroom that is absolutely incredible. There's outdoor hardscapes that they can do for your home. If you even want to do some type of an outdoor kitchen, they can help you with that as well. But as far as our interior work was concerned, the selection was great. They were fantastic all the way around. Once installation was complete, cleaned up like they had never even been there. If you're in the market for countertops for your kitchen or bath, I encourage you to reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman and be sure to tell them that